Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty.
One day I suddenly found myself writing down the following words, with no understanding of where they were coming from. Between us, a sheet-thin gauze of fire that a sudden gust might extinguish. But there is no wind.
One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dog strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder.
When you're trying to change the world, the thing you need to do is get close enough to people who are falling down, get close enough to people who are suffering, close enough to people who are in pain, who've been discarded and disfavored, to get close enough to wrap your arms around them and affirm their humanity and their dignity.
The opposite of racist isn't not racist. It is anti-racist. What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as a racist or locates the roots of problems in power and policies as an anti-racist.
The greatest threats to our freedom are hopelessness, helplessness, and the criminalization of rebellion. Dreaming and joining others fight hopelessness because they remind us that we developed the world that we want.
When Black people migrated to urban cities, this humanizing connection with nature was severed. Racism and white supremacy came to be seen as all-powerful, the ultimate factors informing our fate. When this thinking was coupled with a breakdown in religiosity, a refusal to recognize the sacred in everyday life, it served the interests of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
He spoke in bold, unsparing terms about the soaring stories of America, the country's brutal reality, and the weight of those contradictions upon the mind of Black children. Baldwin says, American history is longer, larger, more various, more beautiful, and more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it.
At certain times, I have no race. I am me. When I set my hat at a certain angle and saunter down 7th Avenue, Harlem City, feeling as snooty as the lions in front of the 42nd Street Library, for instance.
Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried.
I could see him wince with each click of the chains being tightened around his waist. I must have looked pretty distraught. Henry kept saying, "Don't worry, Brian, don't worry. Come back, okay?" As the officer pushed him toward the door, Henry turned back to look at me. I started mumbling, "I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Don't worry about it, Brian," he said, cutting me off. "Just come back."
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run?
When life seems to bring nothing but a string of defeats and disappointments, we've got to have faith that something good is still in store for us. With this faith, we can forge ahead and continue to put forth our best effort.
For me, going high usually involves taking a pause before I react. It is a form of self-control, a line laid between our best and worst impulses.
Arabella, for as long as I had known her, was keenly adept at the enchantment of oration. Her sermons, biblical or not, inspired.
Somewhere, a little girl is reading aloud in the middle of a dirt road. She smiles at the sound of her own voice escaping the spine of a book. She feeds on her hunger to know herself. She has not yet been taught to dim. She sits with the stars beneath her feet, a constellation of things to come.
He is surrounded by fellow citizens caught under the spell of the Nazis. He keeps his arms folded to his chest, as the stiff palms of the others hover just inches from him. He alone is refusing to salute. He is the one man standing against the tide.
It is I who must take the step.
for a man to be both a Negro and an American.
What you can do to be a change agent.
In each moment determines what, not who, we are.
If we can dream of that world, we can also create it.
So that Earth can be our witness, our meaningful resistance.
This structure is operated for someone else's benefit, not theirs.
How can any deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me.
Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
Lord, plant my feet on higher ground.
Or does it explode?
On the sidelines, we can only watch as others do the work and the winning.
It's what happens when you take a reaction and mature it into a response.
And oh, how the sinners would weep.
She's not the opinions of others. She is of visions and imagination.
What would it take to be him in any era? What would it take to be him now?